Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Julio Jimenez here at Imagine Wellness. Today we're going to be talking about your digestive. We are going to be talking a little bit and discussing what are the roots of your dysfunction, what are the triggers that's causing the effect of this problem, but not only that, we're going to be talking specifically what other organs are affected by the digestive and why is it that you're having other issues besides just the digestive dysfunction. Now, let me kind of explain to you why am I here, what makes me the expert into the digestive. And let me give you a little bit of a story of where have I come from, how have I gotten to where I got today, and why is it that I'm here in front of you explaining to you a little bit into this next hour and 15 minutes of what is the digestive and why is it that you need our help and why you're not getting the resolution that you should be getting. Now, let me give you a little bit of a story of what gives me the right to be here. And really, the real story that I have is that my whole life has changed because of a chronic disease issue. Let me tell you a story of my grandmother. My grandmother died of diabetes. And that's really what has changed my life. As a as I was, so that changed my life. As I was growing up, I've always wanted to become a doctor, and I did my biology degree, and I decided to help people in an organic way through chiropractic. That is my doctorate. I'm a chiropractor by trade. As I graduated from college, I went back to the town where my grandmother was living, and I did a lot of the treatment and curriculum the chiropractic tells me to do for my patients who have diabetes. The sad thing is with my grandmother is that through the whole chiropractic process, she still passed. Now, as a doctor, that really hits you hard because this is your family. You want to help your family. And if you can't even help your family, how can I help my clients? And this is the reason why I started doing something different, because this is the crossroads in my life. Chiropractically, it's great. I believe that I did great things for my grandmother, but there's a lot of things that I could not gauge of what really was going on with her health. I believe in chiropractic, but with my grandmother in chronic disease, really, it didn't help much. I might have helped her a lot with her pains, nerve conduction, but at the end of the day, my grandmother died. Crossroads of my life, obviously. My father is diabetic, my mother is diabetic. Am I going to be diabetic? Are my kids going to be diabetic? And that really instigated a little bit of an essence of I have to do something, not only just for my family, but if I call myself a doctor, I want to get to the root of dysfunction so I can help my patients in a different way. But how can I help my patients if I can't even help my own family? This is where my journey began to really studying and looking more into the root of the dysfunction. I started really studying a little bit about what went wrong with my grandmother. And as I started looking into things, I realized that my grandmother really went through everything that the medical field has to provide for her. She started with from that first metformin, okay, of the A1C hemoglobin that was high. Before that, she was taking medication for hypertension. The blindness began, the neuropathies. I mean, all the way down that, at a point that, some suggestion about amputations of certain areas of her body. So the thing that took my grandmother was actually kidney failure. And my grandmother, she's got 10 kids. She's a very strong woman. And for her to go through that whole process of life, and as strong as she was, and to see her to wither away the way she did, is just really unfair. And that's the reason why I decided to do other things and really look in detail, what else can I do for my clients? Because really, what's going on here? My grandmother went through the whole process of the medical system, but yet she went through the whole process of the chiropractic. Nothing really did help. And that's the reason why I went back to school. I did a 3-year into a diplomat of internal disorders through the Chiropractic Association. I lived in Spain for 3 years. I didn't study that. I did a lot of studying into that functional medicine, a lot of the endocrinology, functional neurology, and I do know a lot about functional and natural medication or supplementation or nutraceuticals. But I decided to come back to the United States and started working and going back to the town where my grandmother was and my mother, where they live. And that's kind of where my journey began. That's when I started working with people in a different way. Now, as I started working with as a functional doctor, functional medicine, in which we're looking at the root of the dysfunction, I found myself also providing the same thing that I didn't want to become. I started giving my patients a medication or a natural supplementation for a symptom. So that's not what I wanted to do, and that's not what I wanted to sign up. So that's when, through this whole process of identifying what is the root of dysfunction and how can I help my patients in a different way through physiology, that's when I met a few doctors and that were doing the same thing. And we created a program in which deals with root of dysfunction. How can your body recover? This is what this presentation is going to be about. It explaining to you a little bit about how we're really helping and changing lives and how we can change yours. Now, let me begin and let's start a little bit about how is it that I'm getting the results that we're getting in my office, and how are we helping people, and how can we help you, especially in the digestive. All right, so this presentation, and let us begin. I really want to talk to you a little bit about and why is it that we're not getting the results that we need. As I went through the whole process with my grandmother, the whole thing was that I didn't know what was going on. As I look at the system of health today, and that's the very first thing that you got to realize, that there is a crisis of health. There is a problem with our health crisis. Our healthcare is really broken. It is out of place. It is out of touch with patients. It's all about a system that is not working for us. And a lot of the times we don't understand why. But really, if you start looking at what's going on within in the healthcare today, a lot of it is wrong information or lack of information. You know, eat an egg because it has great proteins. Wait, don't eat that egg. It's got cholesterol. You're going to die, have a heart attack. Where do we listen? How do we know this? Everybody's an expert in health. Everybody's an expert in nutrition. Everybody's an expert in exercise. But really, there's a lot of wrong and lack information out there. And that's kind of one of the biggest things. But as I started looking at the system and dysfunction in which my grandmother and all of us live in, you know, she really went through the whole process. Now, let me tell you why the system is broken. In the way I look at things, in the way I explain to my patients, we always think about a system for our health because they're looking out for us. So what controls our system today is going to be the pharmaceutical companies, your insurance, and the FDA. All right, so all those identities will control your healthcare provider. It'll control the doctors, it'll control the systems, it'll control all kinds of things that we sometimes wouldn't even see and we don't understand, and there's a big smoke behind that cloud. So what I'm telling you is that, especially the insurance companies. So a lot of you guys think that by having insurance is my safety net. I'm providing health care. Government says that we have to have insurance, and not we, you know, that's what health is. And at the end of the day, that is not right. Because my grandmother had great insurance, and that didn't matter. You probably have a great insurance, and you still deal with the digestive dysfunctions. Ulcerative colitis, well, you know, you will always have ulcerative colitis, and you will always take this medication. When does it end? Are you just becoming a patient, or are you becoming a client to all these medications? We need to look at healthcare as a different way, because at the end of the day, insurance companies are looking out to make money, not really to look out for your health. For example, I'm not going to go much into this, but let me give you a little bit of an example. Did you guys know that really right now, especially let's say cancer, there's actually a test that we can run on you called the AMOS test, that actually we can check cancer in your whole body and really look at it 18 months before it becomes active? It's called the AMOS test, AMAS. Why is it that you don't ever hear about this? Or why is it that, you know, as far as, you know, the last year, I think we donated, $95 billion to cancer research, but yet a test as simple as checking in your blood and tells me that 18 months before you get anything like that. Wouldn't you think that would be great information? But why is it that you're not listening? Why is it that you don't know about it? Well, it's because it's not covered by your insurance. No, it's not covered by your insurance. The FDA said, no, we don't want the test for whatever reason it might be. So therefore, you'll never hear it. You'll never see it, but yet it exists. So those are the things that I'm telling you that are so wrong, and the system is against us in different many ways. I'm a true believer that a lot of the problems and a lot of the dysfunctions that we're dealing with in our healthcare and medications are important. I believe there's a place for medication in the acute care, not in the chronic state. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a thought of how this system is not really working out for us. Pharmaceutical companies, what are they doing? They're selling drugs. It's their job to sell drugs. It's their job. A lot of times it's not even to create a new drug. What happens to those researchers back, you know, in time where doctors really looked out to create a new cure of something or help a disease, and they gave it free to the humanity? That it doesn't exist anymore. Today, they got to make money. And all the driven to create new medications is not about the driven to help people. The driven is to make money. And a lot of the times we see that, especially with very variety of different medications. I can tell you, once you become a diabetic, you will always be a diabetic according to the medical system. Once you become a high blood pressure, you will always consistently have high blood pressure. How about cholesterol? Once you have high cholesterol, you will always have high cholesterol. Research cholesterol, for example. The statin drugs is not built to, to decrease cholesterol because that's the reason why you create plaque and you're going to get a heart attack. No. Actually, the statin drugs, and the reason why you create plaque and cholesterol, you're going to increase inflammatory responses in your body, and that's the reason why, you create that dysfunction is because you have a lot of inflammation. That LDL, low density lipoprotein, gets stuck into that artery and it creates a problem. So plaque. So all this misinformation, if we're looking at statins, 1987, I believe, that our cholesterol at 240 was normal. Who drove that down to 200 and why? And are we having better results today with the cardiac dysfunctions than we did before? No. So what I'm saying to you is that it's important for us to figure out what is the results of what you're doing and what can you do to resolve it. And you need to take responsibility to your health instead of relying on a system that is really not working. And I really don't even want to go into the FDA production, all the genetic modifications, all these things that they're doing today with corn, soy, and all these foods that we have today. That is why I'm saying, and I'm going this route for you to understand that the system that exists is really broken and you need to start taking care of your health instead of relying on somebody else. This is the reason why I kind of wanted to go over those things so you can understand a little bit of my point of what we're doing. So again, you understand that the reason why you're having problems and a lot of these dysfunctions in the system is because it's about the money. Now, there is there's a documentary that I would like you to watch. It's called Escape Fire. This will tell you a little bit more of what I'm telling you, what I'm trying to convey here today with you. But at the same time, watch it. It'll bring things to you that you've never maybe thought of what's going on with our healthcare system today. Now, I would like to talk about that, in your life, you always have to have a why is it that you want to change things in your life. And in my life, I have my family that drives me to change the way I am and to change and to get healthier because I want to be here for them. God has put me on this earth to really provide for them. And it's important to understand that that is my goal. A lot of us, we have purposes in life. And I believe God created all of us for a purpose. But as I study really human behavior, a lot of the times it's not, you will never change your life because there's nothing to drive you to change your life. And you will always be taking webinars, seminars, information on Dr. Google, and it never will make sense because really it's time to take advantage and take care of your health with something that makes sense. But you have to have a driven. Why is it that you want to change things in your life? And in my life, when my grandmother at the time that I graduated from school, my weight was way over. We're talking about 250 maybe, 255. That's because I wasn't in tune of why I wanted to change my life, and I didn't figure out the root of my dysfunctions that I was dealing with. So today I'm a different person for that same reason. But I wanted to tell you that I've never been a person that likes to talk in front of people, and here I am today giving you a webinar. Because it came a point that I wanted to get what is my purpose in life, what do I really want to do, and this is where I enjoy. And I believe that God's got me for this reason, to help you and to bring things new to your life. But again, you have to find why you want to change things in your life and why you want to feel better. That I will leave up to you. All right, so let's begin. I'm going to be talking a bit into the subject of the digestive. Again, I'm not going to be going over all the different symptoms or you are going to have the symptoms. There's a variety of different symptoms more, but most of you will be having these kind of symptoms. Vomiting or diarrhea, change of appetite, flatulence, blood or mucosis in the feces, constipation, weight loss, abdominal pain. Okay, you might have, burning sensation. You might have bad breath. You might have, variety of different kinds of symptoms. But I'm just giving you a few, okay? Because remember, I don't want to go into all the diseases. You can have variety of different diseases, but I want to kind of go to the root of why you're dealing with these diseases, all right? So you can have gastric ulcers, atrophic gastritis, gastric carcinomas. We can go down to angiodysplasia, ischemic colitis, polyps, diverticulitis, hemorrhoids. I mean, there's a lot of different diseases. According to where they're at, they'll get their name. But if you see all those things, it's just inflammatory and dysfunction to the lining of your gut. And how have you gotten to that point and why? That is really what we're looking for. So let me tell you a little bit of a secret of your digestive system. And it's very important to understand this, that your digestive, that little pipe that goes from your mouth all the way to your rectum, all the way to your anus, is really what controls everything that comes in through your digestive. Now, through your digestive, whatever you put into your body really is who you are. And you've heard that before. But really, if you think about it, if it controls what comes into your body through your digestive and what stays out of your body, that means that what's coming into your body is who you are. What are you creating in your body? Is that what are the foods that you're providing? What is going on with the nutrients? And from those nutrients is where your body starts forming itself and creating what? Health. DNA. Everything from nutrients to what? Cell function. So we need those sorts of foods. But so what you're putting into your body is who you become. And you need to understand that today the biggest issue that we're dealing with is that we don't know what's even in our foods. If you go to the market today, or if you have a meal today, you see we don't grow our meals or our foods anymore. Okay, so imagine this, that if what's coming into your body is who you are, if you're eating a protein from a chicken, pork, beef, whatever you're eating, whatever that protein or that animal eats is what you're eating. So therefore, there we go. If you're having hormones, antibiotics, all the dysfunction is going to affect your health. How about your vegetables? Your vegetables are crucial because that's how God created the minerals and the vitamins to come into your body through the ground into the vegetables. So therefore, whatever the vegetable has is how they translate that nutrients through your digestive into your body for all body function. So all body function goes through there. So if those substances are genetically modified, no nutrients. I mean, look, even if you go back in time, let's go back into, Jesus' time, for example. Back then, even by law, they would say, hey, listen, every 7th year, there's a law that you can't plant anything through the 7 years. On the 7th year, nothing is planted because we want to let the earth rest, okay, and rejuvenate. See, today, we're not doing any of that. I mean, we put all kinds of things in the ground, ammonia, nitrates, all these things to heat it up, to make those vegetables look really good. And that is a big problem that I see. So remember, what comes into your body is who you are, and you need to identify what's right for you and what's wrong, what's not right in your system, because we're all different. And those are the things that I want to talk to you about. I'm going to explain to you a little bit of a system in which we work in our office, and really the big let's say elephant in the room for me is that I'm going to be talking to you about autoimmune disorders through your digestive that is coming from a trigger that's causing some of your symptoms and some of your disease. So this is called leaky gut. I don't know if you ever heard of the leaky gut syndrome, but this is what I'm going to show you. Leaky gut is one of the things that I'm always talking about in my seminars because this is how this works. At any problem that you're dealing with, okay, you are going to have problems with the lining of your gut. So you'll be seeing right there the interstitial mucosal cells. Those are the cells, those are the lining of your gut that becomes deteriorated or dysfunctioning to create a lot of your diseases. From infections, low acid, now you got acid reflux, you got ulcers, and then according to what the digestive and the lining of the gut becomes dysfunctioning, now you got different names to different itis or inflammation and dysfunction to the gut. But there's a reason why that happens. And what you're doing right now is that if you have a dysfunction to the lining of your gut through the intestinal mucosal cells in the lining of your gut, what's going on there is that you are deteriorating the lining of your gut, breaking the cells, creating inflammation, dysfunction in the hydrochloric acid. Now you got low acid. Now you got has high acidity in your gut. Now you got to take a Nexium or you got to take other things, calcium, to what? Suppress and decrease that irritation. That's not what we're looking for in my office. I want to know what's causing the trigger that's causing the acid to go up. And now, instead of taking a calcium to suppress it, and that's what it takes, we need to go to the root of your dysfunction. And if that's happening in the colitis, then we got to go to the root of dysfunction. So most of the triggers in causing intestinal damage is going to be in the front right here where we said leaky gut syndrome. From the dietary proteins, low hydrochloric acid and enzymes, antibiotics will cause and destroy the lining of the gut that we're just talking about. Infections you have from that. Okay, sugar levels are going to be high. That's going to be also affecting your life in that. Antibiotics, very important. That I see a lot of the time. Even hormones from pregnancy, okay, menopause, toxins, foods. How about stress? I'm pretty sure you're not stressing out, right? We all have those stresses. So let me explain to you a little bit about, as we going along here, how is it that all these triggers could be functioning to this dysfunctioning, that lining of that gut. So if you're stressing out, I'm going to take one of those, okay? Let's take stress hormone. The stress hormone functions this way. If somebody walks into my room with a gun, I need to do two things, either run for my life or fighting for my life. That is the reaction that my body's going to have, and that's what it is. Now, I don't have the energy to fight that person right now. I don't have food in front of me to really get energy and really get there and fight those person. I don't. But what I do have is cortisol. The adrenals, the little gland above your kidneys, will produce cortisol. And that cortisol's function really is to throw a lot of that non-carbohydrate sugars from your tissue into the blood. And when that happens, okay, you get your heartbeat through the heartbeat, lungs faster, and then you got all this blood going really fast, and now you got this crazy energy in which you can really walk and run faster than ever, or fight better than ever. That's your fight-flight response. You know, I was watching Facebook and I saw a little news clip where this lady actually ripped the door out of a burning car because she got in an accident. Her baby was in the back car and she wanted to save the baby, and she actually ripped that door off. You heard people lifting up cars from people that are trapped underneath them. This is the kind of energy that these adrenal glands and the cortisol will do for your life, right? So that's great on the fight-flight response through a system called the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is a fight-flight response. The other side of that coin is called parasympathetic system. That actually what it does the opposite to the rest and digest. So when one is on, the other one's off. So we got to work together to really help that out. But at the time of this problem, cortisol is destroying the lining of the gut. Why? And let me tell you this. Your body does not discriminate between that guy coming in with the gun through your door and you creating all this adrenal to the guy that just cut you off the road today, that divorce you went through, the financial aspect you're in. Your boss is a jerk. I can't get these deadlines. All these things in your life, my kid's in trouble, my wife, all these things in your life are causing this stress, and you're causing cortisol. So the same system is causing the cortisol on the fight-flight response. Now you're creating from the every regular exciting through your life that's happening every day. So when you're creating that cortisol from those reasons, okay, now you're having high cortisol without needing a flight or fight or a death situation. So you don't want that high. But when you have it, it is not a good thing. It creates inflammation in your brain, hippocampus of your brain. Now you got fogginess. It affects your thyroid. It affects the lining of your gut. And I remember Grandma always telling me, don't get angry. You're going to have an ulcer. Grandma was right. I thought, really, Grandma? But it is true. Your cortisol being elevated, it increases that, and it irritates the digestion. How about you falling asleep or staying asleep? It comes from that cortisol. Those are the things that we need to check. Why? Because right now I'm explaining to you that a stressful life is affecting your digestive. And if you take Nexium, because that's what's calming down the acid, the acid within your gut, well, you'll never get rid of it because you're always going to be taking Nexium because your problem started with the cortisol. Excitation of that. That's the reason why we need to really help you with we need to get to the root of the dysfunction. And the cortisol is the reason why. We need to check it and we need to balance it. So the reason why I'm telling you about cortisol is because I want you to understand that the root of your digestive dysfunction, not a lot of the times is just coming because you have an infection in that area, is because there's something else causing that dysfunction. And that goes in relation to the hormones of pregnancy, it goes into relation to the food you're eating, the medications that you're taking, and that's what's causing the irritation. And you're always going to be chasing your tail because you're always going to be taking these medications because there's no resolution. There's no cleaning and repairing. This is what I'm going through when I'm talking about leaky gut. This is the reason why you create this digestive dysfunctions. But what can I do for you in the long run? When you're having these problems that you're dealing with right now in your digestive, the biggest problem, and the reason why I want you to understand this is what I've learned through my life and how we get the results that we get in my office through digestive, the colitis, hemorrhoids, all the polyps, diverticulosis, diverticulitis, all those things. We have great results because we're taking care of those triggers and we identify the root of your dysfunction. But let me take this a step further because this is very, very important. Now let me tell you about how you're creating that autoimmune disease from the dysfunction to the leaky gut that you produce from the triggers from the diseases that you're dealing with or symptoms in which you have. What I'm trying to make sure to understand is that what's coming out of this is the reason why you're having, some of you have autoimmune disease. And if you don't have it, you might create it. So through autoimmune, I'm going to explain to you in small words, okay? I cannot go in specifically, but I want you to understand a little bit of how I look at it so you can really get a good grasp of it, all right? Now, so when you have leaky gut, and this is what's causing dysfunction, you're going to have that leaky gut, and the digestive and lining of the gut is torn. So imagine that you're in the room right now, or where you're at right now, and the walls up and down, sides, they're all made a bunch of little elevator doors. And those triggers that we just talked about destroy the glue that holds those elevator doors open, and it opens. Outside of these walls, you have nothing but blood flow. Okay, that's how your body transports all the nutrients through the blood. So when I'm seeing that, okay, when I'm looking at the digestive, when I see that elevator door, when you're creating leaky gut, now you are opening the door to what? To the external world that we live in through your digestive, to the internal world that we live in through the blood system. Okay, so if you get any substance to go through that leaky gut, then you're going to have a big issue. Because this is what happens. So let's say that I'm eating a carrot, and a carrot is healthy. Okay, what's happening? How do I instigate autoimmune disease from this? And again, maybe you don't understand what autoimmune disease is. Autoimmune disease means that your own defense mechanism is being confused in a way where it starts attacking yourself, its own cells. How is that happening? How is that happening in your body that's attacking itself? This is what autoimmune disease is. So what I mean with this is that what is causing, through leaky gut, what is causing the effect of the autoimmune excitation so high that your body is killing its own cells? Because to me, I'm just kind of thinking to myself, wow, I can just grab this spear and stab myself to death. That's what the autoimmune is doing. Well, I got to be confused to do something like this, and that's the reason why if you have high autoimmune, it means that you have high inflammatory responses. And by having the autoimmune excitation so bad, what's happening with it? So to me, in our office, how we give response, because remember, one of the things that I always talk about is that if you go to any doctor today and you ask them about autoimmune disease, there's no cure for autoimmune disease. There's medications to sustain symptoms, but there's no cure for it. But what does that mean though? Autoimmune just means that there's no cure because there's not a pill for it. In my office, we get great results with autoimmune, and we have different variety of diseases in which we help with that our patients recover from, because we're looking at the root of the dysfunction, and we're really looking at what's going on within the root of the digestive and how that's happening. And let me explain to you how that's instigated so you can really understand how important it is for you to get help. Now, any of you that are dealing with digestive and you're having any of the diseases that we just talked about, it's affecting the lining of the gut, creating leaky gut. By creating leaky gut, it means that your body is leaking food into the blood flow. So let's say that I eat a carrot. I chew my carrot in my mouth, amylase, lipase, it's different enzymes, breaks it down in my mouth, my teeth, goes into my stomach, my acid breaks it down further, it goes into the small intestine, and depending on what amino acid is, brain, everything that happens from peptide amino acids, what I'm talking to you a little bit higher than that, I'm talking about that your food or that carrot becomes a very small particle in which your body is going to transport it for nutrients. Okay? Now, so that particle of food comes through my body and gets absorbed through this villi, in which you see this bunch of little fingers laying around in the digestive. It gets absorbed through that. It goes through the cell, blood, and gets transported wherever you need to. So what happens if that carrot does not go through that system, and instead of going through that, it passes through that leaky gut. It goes through those channels and it lands in the blood. See? This is when your defense mechanism begins. Because anything that lands in your blood, your body's going to go nuts. It needs to kill it. This blood is moving. Every heartbeat, from one heartbeat to the next, is going to be in the heart, in the brain. We need to attack anything that's in our blood that's bad, because that's what the autoimmune is doing. Now, if my carrot lands in that I'm talking about the particle. I'm not talking about a chunk of carrot. I'm not talking about a big hole. We're talking about microscopic holes. That lands into my blood. That carrot and that enzyme, let's say that that's the blue, as you can see here on my screen. Let's say that it lands in the blood and that's the blue. The first thing that happens, you're going to have these cells in your body, T1, T2, the different cells that come in, and all they're looking for is bad substance in your blood. And what it does, it wants to what? Once it finds my carrot, it puts a flag to it, it marks it, it creates a memory. And then you have killer cells, and all they do is look for flags or anything that is marked to kill. This is in small words how your defense mechanism is functioning. Now, if those flags, okay, when that happens, my carrot just got flagged, my body created a memory where that carrot is bad. Anytime I eat that carrot, my body's going to be attacking it. It's kind of like when you eat a, let's say you take a flu shot. Don't take it. I don't believe in it. Flu shot goes into your tissue, goes into your blood. Those T1, T2 cells finds it. They find that substance. They get the virus. They put the flag to the virus. They create a memory. And then you got killer cells come and kills the flag. Then you get that virus again. Then you have a memory of that virus. Now, before it incubates and does all this craziness for you, your body marks it and then your body kills it right away before it does any harm to you. See, that's your defense mechanism. But now we're talking about the foods that you eat, in which your body has created a defense against it in that perspective. This is what I'm looking for in your blood that's causing the excitatory of that. Now, when that killer cells, or when this happens, this circulating immune complex, as you read here in front of you, you will read there that the blood, what the first thing it does actually, creates a lot of inflammation. You know all that systemic inflammation that you've been dealing for years? It could be the things that's coming into your body, and your body's consistently fighting inflammation. And remember, if you got a lot of inflammation, the first thing, disease begins with inflammation. All pain is inflammation. All those things is what we're trying to get rid of because that's what you're dealing with. But now, I'm telling you that through that trigger of your, or dysfunction to the intestinal mucosal line and the membrane of lining of your gut, or that's what's causing a lot of the dysfunction. So, inflammation, when you kill those cells, it crosses the blood-brain barrier. Now you have inflammation from that. It creates autoimmunity. Now you just created what? A memory. And above all, you destroy my carrot instead of getting the nutrients. So now you got nutrient deficiency from my carrot. See, nothing good's coming out of that. But the most important thing that I'm going to tell you is this. So I just created a flag to my carrot. But if I ask you really where you eat, what you eat every day, you probably shop in the same market. You probably eat the same foods every day. Okay? You go every aisle, probably the same aisle in your market. Probably find the same cereal, the same milk, the same thing every day. The same cheese, the same flour, the same wheat, the same bread every day. And if out of those, let's say 50, 60 foods that you're eating, you create these food sensitivities and flags for the, let's say 20 of them. And if you're eating, let's say 10 to 15 foods every day that you created flags to, you have a bunch of flags, bunch of excitatory responses to that, and you're creating all these circulatory and immune complex, especially all that inflammation. So you have a lot of flags in your body. You have a lot of killer cells that kill those flags. At the point of killing all those flags, this is kind of what your body's doing, is killing those flags. So what's going to happen? Let me give you an analogy how the autoimmune starts attacking itself so you can really understand. So imagine that we plant a few rows of carrots in my garden. I go away for about 6 weeks. I come back and I find my garden full of weeds. I can't tell the difference between my carrots and my weeds. But I love carrots, so I want to pull out my weeds. I start pulling out my weeds. Before you know it, I'm pulling my carrots. Wait a minute, I didn't want to do that. So you see, when I'm looking at your defense mechanism, it's kind of in the same way that it's happening. How is it getting confused? Is because remember, this blood is moving, these flags are moving, and as all those flags that you're eating in every meal and snacks is getting into your blood, you have a lot of killer cells. And if those flags end up, let's say, in the joints, and your body comes and kills those flags, what's happening is the same thing as what's going on with my carrots and my weeds. There's so many flags between the good cells that when the killer cells come, it starts to kill everything because you really can't tell the difference between the bad one and the good ones because there's so many bad ones. So the same thing, I didn't want to pull my carrots out. Your body doesn't want to kill the good cells, but it's happening because it gets confused from all these different dysfunctions and foods that are coming through your blood that's attacking your body every day. So therefore, if that's happening in those joints, that's called the rheumatoid arthritis. That's what you might be dealing with. If that's happening to your what? To your muscles, fibromyalgia, nerves, multiple sclerosis, circulation, Sjogren disease. I mean, you can have Crohn's in your digestive, you can have Hashimoto's Graves' disease in your thyroid. I mean, we have over 80 different diseases that could be caused by an autoimmune disposition in which there is no cure because there's no pill. But I'm telling you that there is a help, there is hope. And I'm telling you this because what I do in my office to get great results is it is simple as a blood test that I'm going to identify what are the foods that are causing the irritation to your digestive and what are the foods in the excitatory dysfunction that's doing that in your blood. In other words, we're going to find those flags. And by identifying those flags as coming from your foods, we can always move them out. Now, if your body has no flags to fight, cleaning and repairing, because then you don't have the excitation of the defense mechanism. Then you don't have the killer cells killing all the cells and the good cells and the bad cells, because no longer do we have those flags. This is what we're doing through the autoimmune. And I want you to understand that that's very, very important, because now you don't have the excitation of the inflammation, the blood barrier. We can take care of the leaky gut. We can take care of the trigger, the causing the dysfunction, and looking at the root of dysfunction, heal the gut, repair the gut. We can provide for that. We've helped a lot of people. But the most important thing that I want you to know, that I want to look beyond that, because the digestive is not just about that. I mean, think about it. 75% of the defense mechanism in your digestive. Production of serotonin, let's say the neurotransmitters that's affecting you with depression, is affecting what digestive. The digestive system is so important. It's the first portal of breaking foods and nutrients through your body. If that's not coming in, nothing else works. So we need to identify what's going on. And this is kind of the root of what I'm talking about, autoimmune disease. That could be caused from a trigger and dysfunction to the lining of your gut that's giving you leaky gut, that's giving you the acid reflux, that's giving you that ulcer, is giving you the diverticulitis. And this is what's going on with your body. But not only the pain that you're living and having and the bleeding of stools and things through your gut is beyond that. And I'm going to tell you, most commonly, most of my patients are going to have a lot of problems with thyroid, because it's affected by digestive. And I'll go over the thyroid because it's very important to learn and understand that. So as I'm looking through the digestive, you might have hypothyroid, hyperthyroid, because you're having problems with the lining of your gut. Isn't that just crazy? I hope that this is a leaky gut syndrome. I'm explaining it to you in a way that it makes sense, because we need to help you. And we can. We've helped a lot of people here in our office by going to the root of the dysfunction and understanding what you need. Very, very important. Okay, so understanding that. Do you think this is helping? No. The health crisis continues, not just in the system of healthcare, but in the system of your foods. Diabetes in a bottle for 99 cents. You're paying more for gas than water today. Any fast restaurant, you get a what? A 99-cent burger. Do you know where the 99-cent burger is coming from? Do you know what's putting into those foods? We need to understand that we need to demand that from here on out, you're eating the right foods. That way all these companies can provide the right foods. But right now, government and everybody else is funneling us to eat bad. And this is one of the biggest problems that we're dealing with. So we do need to clean and repair that up. All right? How about this? We have, how about genetically modified foods? There you go. Remember we talked about what comes into our body is who we are? So if they're genetically modifying your foods, you think you're not going to change your genetics? Of course you are. There's so many studies that are showing a lot of those issues in genetic disposition that is changing things. But our FDA is really looking out for us, right? In fact, if you go to your store and you're looking at those produce and you want to figure out which one is genetically modified, it tells you. But it doesn't tell you in words, it tells you in numbers. There's a little tag on that apple or on the bell pepper, on the lime, that tells me if it's organic, inorganic, pesticide, not pesticide, or if it's genetically modified. But it's got numbers. See, this is what we need to teach you and educate you so you can understand what's all the junk that's coming through digestive, because 90% of all the toxins that's coming into your body mostly are coming through your foods. You see how important this is? Education and understanding, that's what we're providing in my office. And doing the right testing to identify the root of the dysfunction instead of chasing diseases and symptoms. Healthcare should be that way. And understanding this is crucial. Another thing that we're going to be looking into the digestive is going to be your genetics. In genetics, in my office, we do check the genome. From the genome, we do check mutations that's affecting the digestive, especially in the pro-prebiotic function. There's a specific gene that you might have mutated from your mom and dad that they gave you, and it's creating deficiency in the pre-probiotics, which is bacteria that protects your gut, bacteria that helps break down food, and bacteria that doesn't let that leaky gut happen. But if you have that problem, it comes from the genetics. We will never know until we check the genetics. So that's the reason why in my office we do check the methylation pathways through genetics. And genetics and the methylation pathways is really a little bit complex. It's not just about the specific folate or the MTHFR gene. We check over 350 to 400 different genes and mutations that's going to affect the methylation pathways. Now, methylation, methionine, the methylation pathway in which I really care about is the one that if your body is methylating or not. And that could be interrupted by genetic mutations. And if you're not methylating right, then that means that you have the key to turn off and on or express genes that they're not supposed to express. I can go all day, and there's a lot of genetic testing today in which we can check cancer, Parkinson's, all these different things. But in my eyes, is that how can I suppress those genes from never becoming expressed through understanding genetics? And the methylation pathway is one way we can suppress those genes from becoming expression, and the environmental factors of what you're eating, what's coming into your body that's going to express those genetics. See, this is what we're going through here in our office. This is the new way of health. By going to the root of dysfunction and understanding individually what's wrong with you. Because the diet doesn't work. We just spoke about the digestive system. If a carrot is what's affecting you, maybe it's a chicken, maybe it's the lettuce, maybe it's a tomato. All these different foods that you think is they're power foods and they're healthy, they might be the biggest problem. That's the reason why when you do we go to the nutritionist or wellness programs and you find out that you do great foods, you lose some weight, but yet you still get all the inflammation. It's because the foods that you're having problems with, it could be the problem you're dealing with. And before you know it, if you have colitis or anything like that, you got 3 or 4 foods that you can only eat. This is what we need to repair and clean so you can get those foods back into your diet. But first, we got to go through the process. Genetics is a big thing in my office. We'll talk about more in detail about that as you come in and get the consultation with me, but I just want you to get the information. Thyroid affects every cell of your body. I want to make sure you understand the metabolism of the thyroid because most of you are misdiagnosed by thyroid. And most doctors will misdiagnose the thyroid, and this is the reason why. Okay, let me tell you why. The first thing you got to understand is that your thyroid is located right in this area. But your thyroid doesn't work by itself. The thyroid produces a hormone, it's called the TSH hormone, that is produced by the pituitary gland inside of your brain. That pituitary gland tells your thyroid what to do. To produce hormone or not to produce hormone, right? Now, your thyroid will produce 93% of a hormone called T4. Okay, T4 is produced by the thyroid, and T4 is produced through the TSH. So the TSH tells the thyroid, "Hey, I have low TSH. You have too much T4. Stop the production because it's too much." It slows down the production, and then you're good. Okay. Now let's say you have a very high TSH, and you have low T4. So most of the time, it's going to be working. It's going to be working this way. You're going to have either opposite to your thyroid, TSH high, T4 low, right? Hypothyroid, you might be dealing with hypothyroid, right? Because you're overweight, losing your hair, emotional, all those symptoms. Well, you might be even taking a levosynthroid because that's what T4 is. If your TSH is high, the pituitary gland tells your thyroid, "Hey, I need more T4 because it's low." Your thyroid doesn't produce it because it can't. Now they're going to give it to you in a synthetic form. T4, levothyroxine, synthroid, most common ones. So when they do that, now you elevate the T4 and your TSH comes even. So you've been diagnosed as hypothyroid through that way. So those are the things that I'm looking at right now in the TSH and T4. This is what your doctor is going to be looking all day long. They want to look at the TSH and the T4 look good. When that happens, then you got controlled thyroid. But no, yet you go home with all the symptoms, all the problems, all the side effects. This is what we're doing with you right now, is that we are making sure that that is not the issue. That is not the result of the thyroid. The thyroid works way more than that. We got to tell you the whole story. Why do you go home feeling the same way? All right, this is why. Every cell of your body has a thyroid hormone, but it's not T4. It's actually T3. And your thyroid produces only 7% of that. Might as well be nothing. So in your body, there's got to be a conversion from that T4 to T3, and most of the conversion is going to be happening, 60% in your liver, 20% is never getting activated, and the 20% is affected in your gut. This is what I'm looking for right now. How is that affecting your digestive? It's because 20% of the T4 is converted to T3. We're talking about the digestive. This is the reason why I always ask to do the free T3, because that tells us a little bit of how much of the thyroid your body is actually using. So can you be hypothyroid with a liver dysfunction because it's not converting T4 and T3? I would say so. Can you be hypothyroid because your gut is not converting T4 to T3? I would say so. Have you ever heard anybody say, "Hey, you might have hypothyroidism because your liver and your gut is out of place"? No. Why? Just give you the T4 and let's pray to God that the T3 goes up, because that's the normal function. But that's kind of where I'm telling you, this is the dysfunction. I wanted to go through this because I want you to understand in full what's going on with your thyroid and metabolism through the gut. So Overall, do you understand a little bit of why it's so crucial for you to have a consultation with me and start looking at the root of your dysfunction? Because nobody's looking at health the way we are here. As you notice, we started with your gut, the lining of the gut. We started with triggers. How is that affecting the lining? How is it affecting disease? But not only that, leaky gut, autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease goes beyond into the inflammatory responses and diseases that you can't even cure with a pill. We can clean and repair that. We can help. We can help differently than what you're being helped right now because we're going to the root of dysfunction. Now, what happens if you're having problems with the digestive and it's affecting your thyroid because you're not converting T4 to T3? You see where I'm going? Your body works as a whole with all the organs for the wellness, for the homeostasis of your whole body. And this is what you're missing. These are the reasons why you're not getting healthier, even though you're taking all those medications, because you're not running the right tests and nobody's going to the root of your dysfunction. This is what I'm looking forward in doing for you. Okay, so let me tell you, most of the autoimmune problems, most of the thyroid problems, they come from an autoimmune disorder, which is called Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. Now, 9 out of 10 women, if you're a woman and you're looking at this, 9 out of 10. That means 9 of you guys, the problem comes from the autoimmune, leaky gut. We just spoke about autoimmune. And if I ask you what are they doing for you, if you do have Hashimoto's, they don't do anything because there's not a pill for it. You see, until now, all about autoimmune disorder, you've never heard of any of these things because there's no pill for it. There's no money to be made. Because nobody's looking at the root of your dysfunction. All these people are looking at how to make money from a medication in which you're going to take for the rest of your life. How about going to the root of dysfunction, let your body resolve itself and repair itself? Let's give that an opportunity to that because I believe God created this organism to sustain itself. And going to the root of dysfunction is really one of the biggest things. These are the things that we're looking forward in helping you in my office. Now, let me tell you how we do it. First of all, I have to go to the root of the dysfunction. As I can see here, you have to go to everything that you see on top. Here on the tree is symptoms. There are the diseases. Go to the bottom of the root of dysfunction, you will get results. Now, the way we do it is the first thing I got to do is that I got to create a foundation. And the foundation is based what? Me looking at your body as a whole, not just individual parts. In our office, what we do is that we create a foundation and we provide through you for 5 pillars of health. These are the 5 essential pillars of health in which I'm going to be working with you in my office. The very first one we're going to be looking at is going to be nutrition. I have a nutritionist on staff. We just spoke about how foods affect the autoimmune. So therefore, I need to provide specifically your nutrients, not everybody else. That's why this is not a cookie cutter. This is an individual program, individually made for you because we're testing and looking at the right nutrients that are coming to your body and giving you the knowledge of how to get that done. Fitness. You got to exercise. I could go all day about fitness. But most importantly, remember, muscle will sustain your joints in place, burn out sugars, burn out cholesterol. I mean, you can look at it exercise, even cognitive, thinking, toxins out, hormone production. I mean, there's so many things that fitness is important. We'll teach you how to get that done. And exercise is not about you going, exercising every day for an hour and a half. You need to learn how to exercise smarter instead of harder. We have a system in our place. We have a physical therapist in which will educate you how to exercise in the right way according to your age, what you are trying to achieve. Hormones. The next pillar of health is hormones. If you're not, hormones are out of place. We just spoke about thyroid. You can have all the diets you want, but if your thyroid's out of place, you will never lose the weight. You will always gain weight. You will always lose your hair, and that's the dysfunction that you're seeing right now. All right? How about genetics? We just spoke about genetics. We look at the methylation pathways, understanding a little bit of the anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, what's going on with the internal cell energy, what's affecting, is your body breaking down fats and proteins correctly? Are those chemicals that come from the fats and proteins going into the cell for function of energy? I mean, we are going to be checking in specific dysfunctions in your genetics that nobody else is, that I know of, especially in this area of San Antonio, that are not looking at what I'm looking at. And this is what I'll be looking for you here and understanding how we can even help you better at what's going on with you now and how can we help you in the future for any genetic disposition and how we can suppress those genes. Genetics is crucial. It's one of the best things that I see within my office that really has brought my patients into a whole wellness and lifestyle. Detox. I have to clean your house, clean and repair it. I have to get rid of those triggers. We can do that. We can clean and repair the digestive, the liver. We can detoxify your body, and we have a system that works phenomenally. These are the 5 pillars of health. And remember, 94% of people fail because they don't have a system in place. We have a system in place that works. And let me tell you, when I'm looking at this chart here, we have to do it all. We cannot do anything. The system that we have is that we have to do all the 5 pillars of health, because if you miss one, you're not going to get the results. And in fact, 94% of the time, you've done the same thing. You've done that. You think that by eating the right way, nutrition and fitness is the best way to do it. And that's the teachings that you hear all the time. But if your hormones is out of place, if your adrenal glands are out of place, you're going to be tired all the time. How about your thyroid's out of place? That's going to be dysfunctional. How about your sex hormones? So it doesn't matter what you exercise, you're still going to be overweight, you're still going to have the dysfunction, because the root comes from a chemical imbalance, not about exercise and food intake. We have to identify what are the right foods you need. So what I'm saying to you is that we need to do all of them, not just individual pieces. Very, very important. So again, I'm telling you a little bit it's information, not as specific, of how we deal with it in our office. Okay, so what's next? Simple. Come on in. Let's talk. Get a consultation. My office will give you, when you call in, I know that we have, an hour of our consultation to help you. Okay, so we can get to the root of the dysfunction. How are we going to put all this plan for you together? I cannot wait to see you. I would love to talk to you. Again, let's get to the root of your problem. You're not doing that right now. Give me a call. I'd love to help you. Hey, you have a great day, and I hope that I talked to you, whatever I said today made sense to you, and it's going to change your life like we've changed all people's lives here. Okay? All right. Have a good night. Thank you.